Hey folks, glad to be here today, this part of Microsoft Connect. My name's Thomas Fennell. I'm a program manager on a team that we call the Developer Ecosystem and Platform. It's in Windows, and I have a guest with me today, Sean Henry.
That's right, yeah, I'm also a program manager in Windows.
Yeah, I mean today we're going to pretend like Sean's a developer,
Yeah.
but...
I'm not really a developer, but I play one on TV.
Oh, okay, good, that's good. It's a good actor to have. We think we get the prize for having the longest session title, possibly. Engaging with your customers on any platform using the Microsoft Graph, Activity Feed, and Adaptive Cards. So I'd love to know, if we have the longest title, I'd love to get an award or something. I think that would be really nice.
A trophy.
Yeah. So we're going to do mostly demos today. I'm going to be doing some experience demos. Sean's going to be doing kind of some code demos, and then I do have some slides, unfortunately, but I promise not to keep you in them too long. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. We kind of wanted to do this today as a play almost in 3 different acts so that we can give you the look and feel of how things work in these areas for kind of 2 different audiences. A lot of times you hear us talk about the customer, and today the customer is going to be somebody who's looking to go scuba diving. As a matter of fact, I know I joked about Sean wearing a scuba suit, but we really are going to be talking about someone who's looking to go scuba diving, and then on the other side of that coin, the business that they're going to choose to go scuba diving with. And we want to show you those 3 different acts from the perspective of those 2 different viewpoints. So those 3 different acts are going to be, 1, we're going to talk about the Microsoft Graph. And the Microsoft Graph is a big, huge thing. It's awesome, and you should definitely take advantage of it. But we're actually going to talk about a couple of simple things inside the Microsoft Graph that Project Rome adds to it, specifically devices and activities. And so in Act 1, you'll see how the graph, through Project Rome, lets us do some really cool stuff there. And then we're going to talk about adaptive cards. Adaptive cards are going to come in Act 2, and they're kind of a great layout and framework for you to build awesome card experiences everywhere, completely cross-platform, and we'll get into that a little more later. And then finally, we're going to talk about how some of these Windows experiences work with some of these things we're going to talk about as well. We're from the Windows team, so at the very end, we do have to talk about Windows a little bit. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with Act 1, wherein Microsoft Graph makes your life better together with Windows and Android. So for this, I'm going to play the customer, okay? So I'm going to start out just purely as the customer who is actually on my way to work. And as a matter of fact, let me go ahead and switch over to my phone here. This is what I do every single morning. So on the way to work in the morning, I'm typically on my phone. I take the connector. It's Connect, and I take the connector.
I don't get it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So I take this a bus that we have that can bring us to work. And then I am going to be looking for places to go scuba diving. So of course, I'm using the new Edge browser for Android. If you haven't given it a shot, you should. So here's the new Edge browser, and I've been looking up scuba diving in Seattle. I've just done, of course, a Bing search for this. It's pretty simple. And I've looked through a few places, and I've actually found one that I really like, one that I think is going to be a great company to work with. So I have them open on another tab here. Let me switch over to that. And sure enough, wouldn't you know it, it's called Contoso Scuba Diving. Shocking, I know, but they look like a good company. It looks like, I want to do a little more research here. It actually looks pretty cool. They even look like they have a bot on their homepage. So I want to interact with this, but my bus ride is over. As always happens, I run out of time, and I don't want to lose what I'm doing. So I need a way to make sure that I can pick this up later. Well, built right into Edge at the bottom, you can see I can choose to continue this now by picking a couple of the machines that I have available to me, or I can continue later. So the difference between these two is Continue Now is going to launch it on the PC I pick right away. And actually, Sean's going to show you that in his demo in just a minute. I actually am going to choose Continue Later because I want to make sure that any PC I go to later on today has this available for me to pick up and use, because I don't know where I'm going to be after work. I might be at home. I might get back on my work PC, but I have a couple of different machines in my life, and I just want to be able to pick it up from there. And so you can see over in my Action Center, possibly, if I quit projecting, there it comes. I have this notification available to me. So later on, for the next part of the demo, I'll be able to pick that up and then continue what I was doing. So for now, though, let's take a look at how Contoso Scuba, the company that I, the customer, was interacting with, could actually do this. So I'm going to pass it over to Sean, but one of the really cool things I want to point out is that you actually can do everything I just showed. I know it looks like it might be special because I used the Edge app for Android, but the truth is it's built on top of the Project Rome and Microsoft Graph SDK, and everything in there, Sean is going to show you how you can do in your own app. So let's move over to Sean's PC, and he can show you how to make it work.
Yeah, so let's take a look over here at my machine. One thing, I think we might have cut away real quick on Thomas, so I'll show you. I have it on this PC also, because we're logged in with the same account here for demo purposes. So his continue from my phone showed up here in the Action Center, and he can click on that, and it will take him back to the website that he was on before. So he can move from his PC to his device and continue where he left off right from there. So what I'll show you here now is another application we've built, which is the employee side for Contoso Scuba.
Right, we gave Sean a couple-day contract to build an application. We're a small company at Contoso Scuba. We only have 4 employees, and so we found the developer with the reddest, nicest beard and decided to let him write the...
I think that should always be the top criteria for hiring, is how red the beard is.
Okay, good.
So yeah, if we go back over to my screen here, we can see on the right we have my Android phone being projected here, and what it's showing is this employee app, which allows them to do things like manage inventory or look at their schedule, edit their booking. Sometimes maybe as an employee I'm feeling a little underwater. I'm waiting for everyone online to laugh. Yeah. So if I want to change this booking, I might want to edit some things, add someone else, assign it to someone else. But sometimes that's kind of awkward to do on the phone. I want to do it on a big screen. So what I've done in this app is I've added this little button in the upper right-hand corner here, which is going to be my Continue Now button. And what this does, if you see over here, we hit the breakpoint. What it does is bringing up a page right now. You don't see the page yet, but we'll see it in a second. It brings up a page, and in my on a peering handler, this is a Xamarin Forms app, by the way, so it's exactly the same code that runs on Android and iOS.
Oh, good, because not everybody has an Android phone at the office. So
well, that's right, yeah. So we can run exactly the same thing on Android and iOS. And so when this page comes up, what we're going to do is, the app is already authenticated with the user's Microsoft account. So we're going to make a call into Microsoft Graph to get the set of devices associated with this user. So this is the query we're making here. We're calling graph.microsoft.com, and we're asking for me, which is the current signed-in user, and we're asking for their devices. So I said we were already signed in, so we go and get the token that we already have, and we associate that with the request over here. We add it to the bearer, the header, the HTTP header. And then we go ahead and we make our request. And what this does is it goes into Graph and it looks for all the devices associated with this particular account. So we get a response here, and we can see, if we look at the actual response string, you can see there's some really nice looking JSON in here that is going to be all of the users' devices. And we put it into an object model here that's a little bit easier to browse, so I can take a look at these guys. And I can see this user has 3 devices. So here's the laptop that they have, and here's another laptop that the office has, and you can see some information about this particular device. You can see that it's a Surface Book made by Microsoft. It's the tablet form factor, so that we know it's got a touch screen, and we know that it's running Windows.
I see. So you're getting the devices for this user and some of the capabilities for the device, and so anywhere this user signed into a device, you're able to now connect this app to them and help them do things.
Yeah, exactly. So now we can see on the list view on the screen here, we can see the 3 devices associated with this account. And we can click on one of those, and what we do at this point, this makes another command into Graph. So now that we have that device ID that I showed earlier in the Graph object, we can use that device ID and we can send commands to this device. Okay. So the same thing I've done up here, another request, just like before, making another request to the Graph. This time, me, devices, and then I put in that ID from the remote system before, and now I send it a command. Put the token in again, never don't want to forget the token. No one likes those 400 errors. And then I build this little JSON payload that tells me what the command is. So in this case, this is a launch URI command, which is going to go and launch URI on a remote machine.
I mean, this is just like launching a URI locally, basically, except it's going to execute it remotely.
And then I put in a deep link. And what this deep link is this is a link that my app, the Contoso Scuba app, knows to handle the deep link back into this page. So we go and resolve this deep link to the page URI. You can see here in the debugger that the app is created. So it's Contoso Scuba Instructor : That's a scheme that I've registered for this app on Windows and on iOS and Android. And then a command, go and edit the booking, and then an ID for that command.
And we didn't talk about it here, but we could have also used apps for websites. I mean, you could have actually put a full URI to the website and had that redirect to the app locally if we'd wanted to. We could take that next step maybe if your contract doesn't run out and you're actually doing a good job.
Yeah, exactly. So apps for websites on Windows, universal links on iOS, app links on Android, all those would work. And you'd be guaranteed to get into the right app at that point. So now we're going to send this command to this device, and then you see here On my
That's
PC,
quick.
this app launched right away, and I'm in this view booking page, and I can go and edit. I can edit this stuff on my nice big screen with my touch screen and my pen and that kind of stuff. So that's a really great experience. That's using exactly the same tech that the Edge is using to do that Continue Now experience on iOS and Android. It's the same thing your app can use to do Continue Now experiences from mobile devices into Windows.
And I know you did it through the graph, but I mean, these things also work proximally, right?
Yeah, that's right. If you go and download the Project Rome SDK, which is there's a NuGet package available for Android for Xamarin, as well as packages available for iOS and Android that you can use that will actually do proximal connections too. So
like those two are on the same Wi-Fi network, and it would have just done it over the Wi-Fi
Exactly,
network, or even if it was
exactly,
Bluetooth paired or anything.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep.
That's cool. All right, cool. So that's the end of Act 1. Scene. Good job, Sean. You played the part of a developer
got my
very
job?
well. Well, I mean, maybe another day or two, maybe.
Another few minutes.
So let's switch
We'll see how
back.
demo number 2 goes.
Let's switch back over to the slides real quick. So I do want to recap, because we did talk about quite a few things there. So I want to do a quick recap of the stuff we talked about. So there's 2 areas in the graph that Sean and I touched on. And the first was device relay. Device relay is kind of the marketing name we've given to the scenario that Sean just showed you. Like, look, I'm doing something on one device, I want to relay it over to another device, and I want to do it right now. But on top of device relay, you can also do something called the activity feed. And the activity feed we're going to see in a little more detail later on in the third act of what we're doing today. But I'm going to talk about it a little bit right now. So let's start with device relay. So device relay lets you do some pretty powerful things. You saw device discovery in Sean's demo. You saw remote launch, and then something we didn't talk about, but if you go play with the SDK you should look at, is sessions. We can do remote sessions as well. But all of these come together to let you do real-time engagement across devices and across ecosystems. I mean, this is really about making your app able to reach wherever your customers are at, no matter what they're doing or what they're using. So device relay lets you do a couple of really core experiences, but there's more than this, but we see these used a lot. You can think of it as helping you extend the experience. I mean, that's kind of what you just saw in Sean's case. He took the experience from one device, moved it to another, but you can also augment the experience. I mean, we've seen some really cool demos of people using devices and Rome to manipulate something going on a different screen, almost in like 3D manipulation through things like device relay and sessions. Yeah. So there's some really powerful stuff you can do as well that we're not going to be able to cover. Well, I mean, Sean's just not really a good enough developer, is the truth, to be able to show it here today.
Wow.
Sorry, I had to get it out there.
Much.
Later on, we're going to show you some stuff about activity feed, but you're going to see activity feed in the context a lot of the scenarios that it enables. And one of them we're going to show you later is timeline. But let me tell you about how activity feed works and how you as a developer should think about a user activity. Now, this is a little bit of an oversimplification, but really it's just a deep link, some content metadata, and an adaptive card. Now the truth is the adaptive card's optional. You don't have to include a visual payload, but you're going to see later on that including the adaptive card actually is what gives it the visuals and gives it the punch that makes people want to re-engage with it. So if you put these 3 things together, you get a user activity. And then you can submit that user activity into the activity feed and actually update these engagement records for the user, and those show up in different experiences, not just in Windows, but all around different places that Microsoft is working on making it easier for you to re-engage with your content. But the core message here is this is how you're going to help users get back into your app. This is how you make sure that they can re-engage and work with whatever the content is that you have to offer them in a quick and easy way. So there are some things, though, that make a really good user activity. First of all, it's things that the users are doing in your app and they're likely to resume. And you don't want to think of that as it's not a granular thing you're trying to do here. You're trying to make it so that they come back to an experience that they were maybe in the middle of. But you don't want that to be every button that they clicked inside the app. I mean, eventually the activity feed and just your timeline view, for example, would get super cluttered. And that's not the experience users are hoping for. They want something that's obvious to bring them back into something they were clearly doing in the app, and we have some examples of that later. It is a deep link. So it's not just going to launch the app, it's going to take you deeply into the app. Just like a notification can take you deeply into the app, a user activity can take you deeply into the app and really pick up the context of what they were doing. And like I said before, really we'll show you in a little bit, adaptive cards are flexible enough to give it a super good looking visual so that it'll really entice people to come back in. So that's the end of Act 1. Let's move on now to Act 2. We don't have any questions. Actually, we do have a couple. Can I do continue now without a Microsoft account? So this is good. Let's address this before we get into Act 2. So
yeah, so we're going to go through a bunch of the Continue Now itself is supported with the Microsoft account right now. So that's the MSA, the Microsoft account. So if you're logged in with that, You can query from the graph and get all of your devices. You saw, I don't know if you saw in the URI, but we're still in beta with the Microsoft Graph.
Yeah, I saw that in the graph endpoint.
Yeah. So real soon we'll be going to version 1.0, and that will support Azure Active Directory when that comes online. All the other stuff we're talking about, like activities you were talking about now, those are all supported for both Microsoft account as well as
So it's
Azure
really
Active
just the
Directory.
continue now piece
Yeah.
that's going to have AAD coming soon. I mean, and the combination of MSA and AAD, that's a lot. Like that covers a lot of great business scenarios. Somebody like Contoso Scuba would very likely be using AAD. They're not going to have their own domain controller. They're going to be using Azure. And you know, MSA is a great tool for customers to be able to use to have something secure that they can make sure is safe launching between. So that's
so
cool.
keep those questions coming. If you got any questions online, we'll answer those as they come along. We'll take some more at the end too.
Okay, cool. So in Act 2, I'm going to continue to play the part of the customer. So remember, earlier I was using my phone. I had to send that link to my PC so that I could pick up what I was doing later. And so now let's pretend like it's the end of the day, finally done working. I've had enough of my developer for the day, and I'm going home to relax. And I remember, oh, I want to keep going with that scuba booking that I was going to do. So I go into my Action Center. I don't know if I actually clicked this earlier. No, I didn't. So there is in my Action Center. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to click the notification like you would anything else. And this is on all my PCs. You saw it even showed up on Sean's PC because they're all connected with the same MSA right now. So I click this. I get a website. And it's the Contoso Scuba website. And you can see that this looks like a very reputable company, especially if I scroll down to some of the divers that are involved in the company.
That facial hair is almost as good as mine, I think.
No, no, I think it's better. It's definitely better. So yeah, we have some great staff, it looks like, at this Contoso Scuba company. And after doing my research, I decide, you know what? I want to book a trip. Like, this looks like a local company that I really want to do business with. And so the interesting thing about Contoso Scuba is you can't actually see it with the bot up at the moment, but they only have 4 employees. There's one more employee over there. So they really wanted to interact with customers kind of in a very personal way, but they don't have the ability to hire extra staff just to kind of do customer engagement. So they looked at the bot framework and creating a chat bot to help people learn more about their business, learn more about scuba diving in the area, and they even added some e-commerce to it, which I'm going to show you in a little bit, to actually help people book trips through the bot as well. So what you're seeing on the right here is the web chat control, and it's the web chat control from the bot framework, and it supports adaptive cards. And so, like I said, they're trying to get people to engage with them more without having to hire more people, and so it does more than just bookings. I can do things like show me some local wildlife. And this is actually going to bring me back an adaptive card of an image carousel effectively, and it's one of the parts of adaptive cards, and Sean's going to show you more about these on adaptivecards.io later. And there's some different kind of fish that you can learn about in the area. Some of you might recognize one of these fish is very, very interesting and unique. And then I've decided, though, that I really do want to book a trip with these guys, so I'm going to ask it, where can't type right now, scuba diving. And I'm actually going to have that's actually going to kick off an experience where I'm able to chat with this bot and book a trip. And these are all adaptive cards that it's returning. This is a card carousel. I'm going to pick this one. Margie's Travel sounds very trustworthy. That was an adaptive card. This next one is an adaptive card as well. This is actually showing me some of the different places I can go. I've seen people scuba diving off of Alki Beach. I've always wanted to go check that out. So I think I'm actually going to pick Alki Beach in this. That was showing that you can have hit targets on any element, because I just clicked the picture, but it was still able to make a selection there. This one is showing an input box on an adaptive card, and actually we're going to have 4 people going. So I'm going to change that to 4, and I'm going to click next. This next card is actually showing a date picker, and I actually think I'm going to take next week off. I don't know about you. I think I'm probably going to try and take the whole week.
Well, I'm actually Canadian, so...
Oh, you don't get the week off. Yeah, you have to work. That's right.
Yeah,
okay. So I'm going to take next week off. I think maybe next Monday would be a good time to go scuba diving since I've got the week off. So I'm going to pick that date and click next. And then it's even asking me what I want to eat. And we actually will have somebody with us that is got an allergy. And one of the things that I just did there, this actually was one card showing another card inside of it. Let me do it again. If I switch it to tofu, you can see the options below changed. Switch it back to beef. So cards are able to not only be them cards themselves, but host other cards as well. And so we know that one of the people is going to be allergic to peanuts, so we're going to pick that for now. That's not you. Are you allergic to peanuts?
No, not me.
Okay. And so then just a little bit more information I need to put in. I'm going to put my name in. I'm going to put my email in. That's my real email. Y'all can email me if you have questions. And then I'm going to put my phone number in. Go ahead and try and call that and see what happens. And then hit next, and I've basically completed the booking. And you can see I get a really cool weather card. It's neat. It's going to show me the weather for the day that I've chosen to go scuba diving, and it's got a little bit of information. But I mean, it kind of feels to me like something's missing here. I really feel like the weather's cool, but what I really wanted, what I think most people want, is a receipt. Like, don't you kind of expect like a booking confirmation?
Sounds like you're asking me to do some work here.
Well, yes. Like, I think probably the best thing to do right now is to say, Contosa Scuba has heard that this isn't quite right and they want a receipt card.
Yeah.
Sean, developer in residence, could you play the part of developing us a receipt card maybe?
Yeah, let's see what we can do. So let's go over to my machine here,
cool.
and we can take a look. So the first thing I do here, I'm going to go to the website adaptivecards.io. And what's on this web? This is kind of the website for adaptive cards. Tells me everything you'd want to know about adaptive cards. Got some documentation. We got Schema Explorer. We got this nice like samples view here that we can see kind of what the adaptive card JSON looks like, and we can see what it looks like over on the right. And there's lots of different samples here. You got food, restaurants, some stuff for games, all sorts of neat things. And I was kind of looking this one actually up at the top. It's kind of what I think what we might want to do for a receipt, like some text at the top, and then these kind of two columns at the bottom.
Right, it's close.
With the bold on one side. So I'm going to look at how this is made. I can see there's this kind of this body, then this top level element here, this container that has a bunch of items in it. We got sort of these text blocks, and then the column set there, which I don't think we'll need. But maybe if we go down, we look at these things at the bottom. That's called a fact set.
Mm-hmm. I see. So you found a couple things you might need to use, like a container and a text block and like a fact set. And
so I'm going to go over here then to the Schema Explorer, and this has got the list of all the building blocks for adaptive cards. So I can kind of pick and choose what I want here. So I had that container, and I can see kind of what a container looks like with an example. And there's this button here that says "Try it yourself," which actually takes me back into that visualizer with the container. So I'll start editing this a little bit. Much as I love that cat, I think it's got to go.
You're not a fan of Ninja Cat? Look how cool he looks. Maybe he's not right for a scuba diving shop. I guess that's probably true.
So we wanted to do 2 text blocks here. So we'll add 2 text blocks, and maybe we'll make this top one. We'll make it a little bit bigger. Let's see here. What do we need to type here? So we'll make that one large, and then we will never forget the commas in JSON, and then we'll add a little bit of weight to it.
Still doing it. I don't know what's going on.
Let's. There we go. So now we got some weight in here. That should go. What are we missing here? We're missing our quotes. There we go.
Nice.
So now we got that up there.
You were on the verge of losing your contract, bro. I got to tell you.
Let's go add this fact set. This one will be a little bit easier. So we'll go and we'll pull this guy in here. We'll take a look at this. We'll grab this JSON object.
I see. So you're just kind of taking the bits and pieces you need and just putting them in here. And
Yeah.
now
I'm lazy. I'm going to take what's already
you're
here.
what we call a copy and paste
That's
developer.
right, copy and paste.
I see. Okay.
So we can see over here, and this is starting to look a little bit like what we might want a receipt to look like.
Yeah.
We can have the appointment at the top, and we can have the date, and then we can have like who's involved in it right here. And then one more thing I think we'll add, we'll put a nice little background image
that
up at
was
the top.
looking a little dull.
Actually, before we do that, what we'll do, we'll make sure we can see over here at the top. We can see there's all these different renderers for the card, so we can see what it might look like. We were looking at web chat earlier, so we'll put this web chat template on here. They look mostly the same, but of course with adaptive cards, you want to make them look native to where they're being shown. So they all look a little bit different. But there's the whole point of adaptive cards is you have this layout that adapts. Hence the name.
It's in the name.
To all these platforms. So where was I? So let's just add a background image real quick here. So there, we got a nice little background.
Hey, that looks good. That looks like Hawkeye.
Starting to look pretty good. So now we have this sample. What I'm going to do, I'm going to copy paste this JSON here over into my bot application. Actually, through the magic of television, this has actually already been pasted in here. And what I've done, I've gone in and also replaced those sample images and the sample text from Adaptive Cards.io with placeholders. So this is now the bot can go in and it can read this card and it can use it generically then for any location or any anything that I've scheduled.
So you've kind of built a template, like a reusable template, and like no matter who goes in books, it'll just kind of fill the data in from what they were doing talking.
That's right, for a receipt. So we've done this and we've added it to our list of cards. You can see all the cards that the bot supports.
Okay, receipt.json is in there now. Okay, that's the new card.
And then one more thing we have to do, we have to add a keyword support. Our bot's not that sophisticated, but it does look for keywords in text. So we'll add another a check for if the user says the word receipt. Wow, I'm having spelling issues today too. And what we'll do if we see receipt in the text, we'll go and we'll show this card.
I see. So you're mapping that text response to the receipt card to pull the data in and then show it to the user.
That's right. And so we can go ahead and publish this right now, and bots, they deploy, pretty quickly. And what's going to happen now is, anytime someone interacts with that bot, we'll get all the cards we had before, and now we'll get this new card, which is the receipt
So
card.
you're
right
publishing to the bot framework right now,
That's right.
And you're publishing to the web chat channel specifically, which we're using on this website itself.
Yeah.
Hey, that was fast.
There's actually a little shortcut in here, so if we just type, show me my receipts, because we're logged in with the same account and everything, we'll just see, we'll see the same receipt here on my machine.
Hey,
So
that looks really good.
looks pretty good, yeah.
That's excellent. So that kind of, rounds out what we feel like everybody needs, or everybody's been telling us they need to feel comfortable using Contoso Scuba and the bot and everything.
That's right.
That's really awesome. Thank you, Sean. So let's move back over to my machine, and actually, there's one more piece that we wanted to show you that Sean didn't have time to code up, but I do have an example of it. So he showed you how he got a receipt, but let me show you in my email. So he got the receipt in the bot, but if I move over to my personal email, you can see Contoso Scuba has sent me that same receipt in a message in my email. And what they've done that with is actionable messages. Because actionable messages and adaptive cards are basically compatible. And now the company has not only been able to let me reconnect through the bot, but at the same time, they've made it so that I feel even more connected by sending me an email. And they've just done that with the same backend. The same backend that hosts their bot and does their website very easily was able to also send an email to me with that exact same adaptive card. And so now, no matter how I choose to reconnect with that business via the bot in the browser or via my email, like I know that I've got the data I need to feel comfortable that my Scuba trip is ready to go. So let's now move back into recap a little bit of what you just saw. So if I bring the slides back up, first, I just want to briefly talk about adaptive cards themselves. We gave you kind of a crash course and just threw you into adaptive cards. But adaptive cards have kind of a very broad breadth that make them useful across a lot of things, definitely not just in bots. So it is a completely open framework, and we mean it is also completely open source. Everything we've done with adaptive cards we do in the open, and we've done it that way from the beginning. And it's really designed to give you a native rendering of the semantic content that you send on any platform that's out there. I mean, we're giving some specific examples in the slide of notifications or Microsoft Teams or Skype or Android or iOS, but really, you're going to start to see this coming through in a ton of different Microsoft experiences. We're trying to make sure that Microsoft standardizes around it as the way to show cards in everything that we do, and we're hoping that the community picks it up as well. And actually, we've seen some really good engagement from the community already. We've seen people building things with adaptive cards. Some people even built an amazing website with adaptive cards. We weren't expecting that to ever happen. Someone's built a designer that goes on top of our visualizer that actually makes it easy to just drag and drop and create adaptive cards. The community has really been amazing in helping us along with this effort. Adaptive cards are really targeted at sitting between fixed templates and HTML. And fixed templates are, you have a receipt template and you have a flight template and you have these things that you really have to like shove your data into. And the truth is, for the Scuba industry, something like Scuba, there was no template available. Like that never would have worked. And so this lets people do actually things that aren't in a template, but it's also not just full HTML, because full HTML means everything that comes with full HTML, and it's a little bit scary. And we actually know that the people who are hosting these cards kind of actually want to retain some control of the experience so that it looks like their brand and it's able to actually be expressed in that way. There's also the benefit that they automatically adapt to the host UX and brand guidelines like I talked about, and the fact that they're low cost. They're pretty easy to do. They're targeted at the long tail. You saw Sean whipped one up really, really quickly, and we can all tell that he's not the best. I'm just going to stop. I'm going to stop.
Look, I don't make fun of your PowerPoint slides.
And then they're purely declarative, right? They're safe. They're not anything that you need to be worried about like you would if it was HTML and JavaScript. They're just JSON, and they're just semantic layout elements. Now, there's a rich schema. The schema was what Sean showed you on the website, and you should go take a look at it. It's got a lot more elements in it than what we had a chance to show today. It does have actions. We showed a few actions, like be able to show other cards, but you can also open URLs. There's actions available to you as well. You can take input like we showed. Again, there's input for date, input for time, date and time, input for text, buttons, checkboxes, radio buttons, like all that good stuff, of course. And then finally, there's speech enabled. That's not something we showed, but we could have actually done that bot demo by clicking the speech button to the right and just talked to the bot as well.
Which is great for like Cortana and those kind of things where you have a voice interface. Yeah.
And there's just times when it's just easier to talk instead of and this will start showing up in things like Cortana skills as well. And so there'll be a good overlap with what developers can do. And if the experience is speech first and text and input second, that's fine. It'll work great with adaptive cards. And so a little recap of the tooling. So some of the tooling that we've got available, the visualizer is something that everybody should really go out and give a try. It's really easy to design your own cards, build them. It's really straightforward and quick, and I promise that after a few minutes you'll be building awesome looking cards very quickly and easily. The Schema Explorer itself, that's actually the jumping off point that Sean used, because it's such a simple way to grab a quick example, and I'll admit I'm the same as you. Copy paste code, like it's just easier. Like that's what I do to start everything. And if I can take those different things from the schema and just kind of piece them together, then I get a lot further along a lot quicker. And that's what I do on the visualizer. And then finally, we do have a VS Code previewer as well. So if you go and search in the add-ins for VS Code, you'll see there's a previewer for adaptive cards. So that way you can stick in code like a lot of us like to do most of the time, and then still see those previews without having to go out to adaptive cards.
You're telling me I could have used VS for that, VS Code?
Yeah, you could have.
Yeah, that would help me with my comma problem and my quotation mark problem.
I mean, it was just a little more fun to see you struggle. If I have to be honest, it was a little more fun. So that's a lap around adaptive cards, and I was just going to check and see if we had any questions.
There's that question there around the bearer token for OAuth 2. So yeah, what I showed there with the continue now, I was using my Microsoft account, so I was using the OAuth 2 authentication with that. What I'm actually using, in that app is the Microsoft authentication library, MSAL. So if you go and use that, you can use that to authenticate, and whatever that uses, as its token, you can use then to talk to MS Graph. Again, on the continue now, right now, only working with Microsoft account. Once we get out of beta, they'll also be on Azure Active Directory. But the other stuff that we're doing with MS Graph, that will all work with the Microsoft Authentication Library, which is a .NET standard library that will work in your Xamarin projects on iOS, Android, and Windows as well.
Okay, well, it looks like we have maybe a couple more coming in. So one of these isn't a question, it's just in all caps, and it says, I was promised Sean would be in a scuba suit.
I don't see that here. Did you make that up?
I'm pretty sure that's what it said. I thought you were going to, that's what Twitter said, was that you were going to be in a scuba suit.
I've never seen anything untrue on Twitter.
I see. Well, the truth is, I think you'd look too good in a scuba suit, and I don't really want to be upstaged.
Yeah, that's true.
But there is a real question up here. It says, can I use XAML to make adaptive cards? I think this is a question that I actually flipped the other way around. Adaptive cards are designed to come down to the native UI rendering on a device. So the truth is, it's about actually taking the semantic pieces of the card and letting the host that's going to show the card lay them out kind of however they want. Now, we have recommendations like things like the actions should be at the bottom in some cases, but it's not about taking one UI technology and making that work everywhere. It's about taking the semantic up-level layout about things and letting that render. So it's not just XAML, it's adaptive cards to XAML and adaptive cards to native iOS elements and adaptive cards to TypeScript. And I mean, there's a WPF renderer that we have as well. So the truth is, there's a lot of places that have a need and already have great UI frameworks. We don't want to invent another native UI framework. So this is just about letting those things choose to be the best at what they're doing, and adaptive cards lets you bring that down through some really simple, straightforward JSON and just semantic layout. So those are good questions. Okay, I think that's it for now. So I think we'll move on to Act 3.
Act 3.
Act 3. So Act 3, for Act 3, I'm mostly actually going to play the part of someone who works at Contoso Scuba. Now, I'm sure that most scuba diving instructors look a lot better than me, but I'm going to try and pretend.
I'm picturing you need a little beanie on, maybe.
Yes,
and,
yes, something like that. But I want to tell you a little bit about their business. So Contoso Scuba is small. They're a small company, and they have 4 employees, and they just have a small shop. And mostly what they do is they help people buy scuba equipment, get fitted for scuba equipment, stuff like that. But they also do tours, like you saw. Like they work with other companies to book scuba diving tours. And they have a busy life. As a matter of fact, they only have 4 employees, and only a couple of them are ever working at any one time. So today, in this demo, when I'm pretending to be this employee, I'm basically just coming back from lunch, and there's only one other person in the shop at the time. So let me move over here, minimize the presentation for a second, and I come back from lunch, and I see that there's a new notification in Action Center, and what I see that notification telling me is that there's a new booking available. So that's literally the booking that Sean just helped me build the receipt for, so when I was the customer. So now as the scuba diving instructor, I see there's a new booking available for today, and I need to take action on that. So I'm going to accept the booking. This is a toast notification, and you'll notice, and Sean's going to show you later, this looks just like that adaptive card that he built because it is that adaptive card that he built. going to accept the booking. That's going to launch the Contoso Scuba Instructor app. Again, this is the app that Sean showed you launching cross-device earlier. I just launched it from the notification, and it tells me the details about the booking. It says, hey, these people wanted to go to Alki Beach. You know, they want to go on Monday, and here's the people that are going along with it, and some dietary requirements that we put in. All that stuff about the booking is there. And one of the kind of processes we have in this company, it's a small company with one PC in the back room. We need to acknowledge, like they need to know, like the other people in the company need to know that somebody is going to take care of these people, that this booking has been accepted. So they're just going to click the little check mark, and that lets them, the rest of the company, know that there's someone taking care of it. Now, like I said, it's a small business. I just came back from lunch. The other person that was here, he had to go out to lunch. And so now someone walks into the store and they want to get fitted for a scuba tank. And I have to go do that. So I have to walk away from the PC at this point. Like I go out, I help them, we fit them for a scuba tank. And I'm done with that, and later the other person comes back from lunch, and he's in the front room, so I go back to the back, and I'm like, oh, I was doing something. What was I doing, Sean? I was doing something. I was...
What am I, your mother?
Oh, man, no help from the developer. Oh, that's right, I was booking a scuba appointment for somebody, so the notification is not going to be an Action Center anymore, but I can move over to Timeline. So this is the task view that you're all used to seeing, except below what I'm doing right now are some of the things I've been doing earlier. And you can see one of the things that's in there was the fact that I was in there working on that booking. I'm not going to click this quite yet because I actually want to show you a few other things. This is really, really cool about Timeline. Some of the MSN apps have been updated internally that we're using to also use adaptive cards and user activities to show things in the timeline. And the really cool thing about these that I want to point out, do you see how they say they're from Surface Book? I know that seems like, well, you're on a Surface Book, duh, but the truth is, these were actually from that machine, the other machine that we're using for all the other demos. They're both signed in with the same Contoso Scuba account. They're the same MSA. And even though they started there, they're showing up in the timeline here because Timeline was built from the beginning to be cross-device. Whatever you were doing, you want to get back to it. And it doesn't matter what device you're doing it on. So even though the apps I used were all over there, all the activities are still showing up over here, and I could get back into them.
It's kind of like that device graph we showed earlier, right? We're using that, and we're kind of up-leveling the user's kind of graph of their devices. So now everything I do, associated with that, that account on all my devices shows up. So I can start things on one device and finish on another. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I mean it's a great experience too. Like you can see, there's good-looking cards in here. They're very clear as to what the stories were. You can see clearly what app they're all associated to. And clicking on any one of these would launch me right back into the app and exactly that story. I could go back and learn about GE. Just can you believe light bulbs are not going to be a thing anymore? Like GE is not going to make light bulbs.
Be in the dark.
Yeah, no, I mean I guess there's going to be LEDs and stuff, but it's just GE.
Sorry,
still. So what I do want to show you though is that how I actually back into my character resume what I was doing before. So clicking this should relaunch the Contoso Scuba app. I'm going to do it. And sure enough, it does, and it takes me exactly back to what we're doing. Not to the main page of the app, not somewhere else. Should we do the user feedback right now? I think I'd give it like 10 thumbs up to be possible. So that's the end of Act 3, kind of, and it kind of showed you the experience. But really, the important stuff is what's happening behind the scenes here. And there's really only two things that we need to show you, and that's how we did the notification and how we did the user activity for Timeline. So we're going to switch over to Sean's PC, and he's going to show you the code behind how to build those experiences yourself.
Yeah, so this is the Contoso Scuba app that Thomas was just showing you, and that we showed a little bit earlier on this machine. So this is a UWP app, and I have the code here for it. So a couple things we've done here. So first of all, for that toast, I have a little helper class here to help me build toast notifications based on a particular booking. So once again, I take that same JSON file that I built, with the adaptive card visualizer earlier, and I go and I can read it in. It's sitting inside the package. I have it there as a template. I read it in, and then I go and populate the tokens, just like I did with the bot. I go look through that JSON file and I go replace all the tokens that were there.
Awesome.
With data from the booking. And then once that's done, so now I have a fully built out adaptive card JSON. I can just pass it to the toast notification object.
That just looks like the normal toast notification.
Yeah, that's
API.
right. I mean, the good news is that I get to use adaptive cards instead of that XML that kind of stinks.
What
of
are
like
you
the
trying
90s.
to say?
Are
you trying to say we should have done JSON a long time ago?
JSON has been the hotness for quite a while, Thomas.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway, so the good news is it's very simple. Just a couple lines of code to take that adaptive card JSON and pop it into the Toast Notification Manager to create a toast that looks rich like that. The other thing I want to do with this app is I want to integrate it with Timeline and Cortana and all these features so I can kind of do these kind of pick up where I left off type scenarios. So kind of the best way to do that is to figure, like Thomas said, is find the places in the app where you think the user might want to re-engage. So a really good place for that is like that booking page. Like you said, that would be a place where someone would want to pick back up and get back into that booking. And kind of at the page level, especially for UWP apps, is a really good level for like building these activities that sit in Timeline. All of your pages should probably be an activity in most cases. So what I've done here, I've got the Scuba Instructor app at the bookings page here, and I've gotten overrides for the navigation events, both to and from. These are things you're probably overriding anyways if your app is complicated at all. So the first thing I'm going to do in this on navigated to, so this is when I actually navigate to this page and it comes up, is I'm going to go look at the activity feed. So there's this user activity channel object. I'm going to get the default. If your app supports multiple users or supports multiple accounts, you can go and get the accounts of that particular
So you could
user.
switch between them at this point.
Yeah, but in most cases, you're logged in with the same account on Windows as you would be for the app. So we just get the default channel in this case. And then I go and create a user activity, and I give it an ID. Now this ID is just something that me as the app knows so that I know how to get back to that.
There's no special magic
There's
here.
no special magic.
It's just
there.
what you want it to be.
Exactly, right. So I kind of gave it an ID about a booking being accepted. So I go and create that. If the activity was already there, it would have handed me back an already created activity. So if the user was like kind of going back to this page a lot, I wouldn't get a new activity object each time. I'd get the same one, and I can go and update it then at that point.
I see.
But that's so you get these experiences where you can really pick up where you left off. So I've got my activity object now. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set some of the metadata on it. So the three most important elements to get on an activity are the activation URI. So this is the deep link back into the app. So the same thing I showed earlier with the Xamarin app, that I put like a link in there that's a deep link back into this page with the ID for the record, so that my app knows whenever it gets launched with that URI, it will come back right to this page at this record.
Okay, so you used a custom scheme here, but one thing we didn't talk about today, but I think that you could do is you could even use apps for websites here, right?
That's right. Well, we did talk about that a little bit earlier. So
you could put it right in here?
Yeah, you put that right in here. So if I had gone and registered a domain, I could have put in like HTTP
contososcuba.azurewebsites.net.
Exactly,
this is
right.
where you would do that.
Yeah, and then Windows would have resolved that into the app. And in some ways, there's an advantage there because schemes are open. And you could build, well, that's not really going to happen, but in theory, you could build a Contosa Scuba app that's a competitor to mine.
True.
And actually use that scheme. But if you use app URI handlers, it's tied to your domain. So as long as you're on that domain, you'll always get that app. Okay, so I've set that activation URI, and then I'm going to set a couple visuals on that, the display text and the description, so that shows up. Some experiences don't support adaptive cards, but those that do. So the ones that don't support adaptive cards will get that display text and description, but those that do will add an adaptive card as well. So same code I did for the notifications.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of reuse out of that code. Like you're a pretty smart developer. Wrote it one time.
I would have said lazy developer. But
I was going to try and be nice from now on. I thought
so. I grabbed this same JSON payload, and I go and read it in, and then I create an adaptive card from that JSON text. And then the last thing I do, once I've populated that activity with everything, all the metadata, all the visuals I want for it, I go ahead and save it. And then I go and create a session. And what happens when I create a session is now this is telling Windows that the user is actually engaged in this activity. They're on this page right now. And that'll help us know like where we want to put in the timeline, how much time has been associated with this activity, so we know when the user might want to re-engage.
I see. So like if someone's been using something for longer, it might be higher up in the list. Because sometimes you could do a lot of stuff in a day, and you want to be able to get back to the stuff that's kind of the most important. This is kind of one of the metrics, I think.
And one little line I forgot to mention, which is also what I'm doing, and then I'm navigated from, is my current session is actually a member variable for this page. And if I happen to be in some other activity on this page, I want to make sure I dispose of that one first. So this one little line here, which is kind of I love the question marks. This is a reasonably new thing in C#, but basically that's a null check. So this is the same as saying, if current session is not equal to null, dispose it. So disposing is the way after I've created that session and I've told Windows I'm engaged with it. If the user is no longer engaged with it, I dispose it. So it's the iDisposable interface. This is a pattern that is used throughout a lot of .NET APIs. So you can go and dispose of that session once you're done with it. So that's all, pretty straightforward. Only a few lines of code to add that to, to my app. And so we added the navigated to, and we added the navigated from, and we can go and add this to all the other pages in our app as well. But in this case, we're just going to add it to the one. And so what happens, behind the scenes is, when this page was navigated to, that activity was created.
I see.
And so now, Windows knows that the user is doing this, and then, I can close the app, and we can leave it, and then, we can go and resume it later. So here we can see in my timeline,
right.
I've got, the card that I've created for the Contoso Scuba Instructor app that I just created now. Now I wasn't using it for that long, so it's kind of showing up on the top level here, but not one of the first ones.
Did I just see how to exit Vim?
This is
your timeline.
I think someone might be trolling me. I'm not sure. I'll give you one guess at who it is. Yeah.
Is it a good mental model for me to think about this a little bit like autosave almost? Like
Yeah. I mean, definitely. Like you said, is thinking of things that the user is going to want to re-engage with. Things you think they'll want to resume. And again, certainly with like UWP applications, or even on iOS and Android, page-based applications, that's a great place to sort of build your activities.
Right, and I mean, scenarios we didn't even talk about today are things like media. These make a ton of sense as well.
Right.
I mean, I was in the middle of playing this song or watching this movie or whatever. Like, there's all kinds of hints that users would give us if they could to say, I want to be back here, and that you can then build this into your apps now and support them for that. So it does look like we've got a couple more questions before we wrap up. So I just want to take the questions in this section, and then we'll wrap the whole thing up. So the first one says, I love being able to use JSON in notifications. Is this, good. I love being able to use JSON in notifications. Is this feature in an insider's build? So it's in a build that I'm using right now. It's not in an insider's build quite yet, but we are going to be pushing it out to insiders fairly soon, and you are going to be able to start using adaptive cards in Toast notifications. You'll be able to do basically everything you could do with adaptive XML, but I'm going to be honest, when it first goes out in insider builds, it's actually going to have some gaps from what you could do with the XML-based stuff. But at the same time, it's also going to have some things you couldn't do with the XML-based stuff. For example, with adaptive cards and toasts, right away you're going to be able to use things like checkboxes and radio buttons. You're going to get some cool text colors based on accents and things. So you're going to get some stuff that's completely new, but there will be a couple minor gaps in the first couple releases to the insider flights. But it is coming. It's coming to an insider build. We will have a blog post going out to talk about that as soon as I can share more about it. So. Let's see, what else is that? Oh, are cards supported in Skype bots? So they are in progress of being supported in Skype bots, actually in Skype and in Teams. So daily we're seeing progress, actually getting awesome stuff back from the Skype team showing how their integration is coming along with adaptive cards. Right now they're supported in the web chat channel on the bot framework. That you can definitely go try today. And I know Matt and the adaptive cards team are working really hard on, and the Skype team is doing the most work on getting it into, I actually saw his status report this week that said, yes, like here's some more pictures of it actually working. So we will have something to announce there very, very soon, but it's going to be coming to a lot of channels and a lot of places, and Skype's kind of just the tip of the iceberg on that one. Here's one for you, I think, Sean. Can I use user activities for my website on top of my app?
Yeah, so absolutely. So if you have a website or a web service that wants to generate user activities, you can integrate directly with Microsoft Graph, and you can generate activities that way. In the same way that we did Continue Now, we looked at those devices. We can look at the activities for a user, and we can post activities to the graph, and we can post those engagement records as well, which kind of tell us when the user was interactive.
So it's not just an app thing. It's like service to service, app to service, like all the scenarios like we can.
Exactly, and I see here too on the question they're asking about Win32 as well. And yes, there are Win32 APIs. Actually, Win32 app can use those WinRT APIs that I showed as well. There's a little bit of work they need to do ahead of time because they get a bunch of stuff for free with WinRT, like they get the application ID is associated for free, the window is associated for free. They'll have to hook those out themselves if they're building like a Win32
Now, are you talking Win32 or are you talking Desktop Bridge or both?
So Desktop Bridge, you'll actually have an application identity, so you can probably use the WinRT APIs there.
So you're talking just Win32, like just any traditional Win32?
So I mean, my first suggestion is if you have Win32 app is go use Desktop Bridge, and then you'll get all this stuff. Much easier to add these user activities. But it's not that big a deal if you have just a plain Win32 app. You can add these user activities to it as well.
Cool, very cool. And then there's one question that's kind of off the bottom. Oh, I can see it over here. While you talked about best examples of user activities, can you go a bit more into this? So what are some other examples of user activities?
Well, I mean, you saw some on your timeline there. So a really great example with the MSN apps are news articles, for instance. We saw weather if you're looking for weather for a particular location. Obviously, web pages, Edge is already adding activities for web pages in there.
Oh yeah, that's a good one we didn't even mention. I mean, it's kind of like a visual history of some of the important stuff that you've done while you're browsing.
I recently saw Solitaire has their adaptive cards in their builds now as well. So you can go resume your game of Solitaire that you're in.
Oh, cool! Like in progress game, like I got pulled. Like I would not be playing Solitaire in the back of Contoso Scuba. Instead of being in the front room, that's not something I would do.
For some reason, I don't believe you.
Oh.
So that's, I mean, the key piece is just think of the things that the user might want to resume in your application, and make activities for those.
I actually saw that we're also building it into the expenses app, like our own internal, because that's another one that you get in the middle of doing some expenses and you realize you don't have your receipts and you go away and you get sidetracked, come back. I think Kevin even showed that one in London. So yeah, those are all good examples. So let's get back into the slides just for the last little bit here, and just wrap up a little bit about what we talked about. So I want to just take you through kind of the experience that you saw. Like this was Action Center. This is an adaptive card in the bottom of Action Center. And one of the things to tease apart here is there's a couple different things going on. There's the card. There's that visual piece you saw. And then there's also kind of the container around it. In this case, when Action Center, it was a toast. And the toast has some toast things in it, right? It has a scenario, it has launch arguments, it has the payload, which is the card. Now, all of that is a different kind of container than what you used for user activity. The activity has that metadata, the URI, the visual, but you can see it's the same card, right? Like that's really what we're trying to drive home here is some of the ways you address some of these different surfaces are always going to be a little bit different depending on what their needs are for the experience, but the core piece of the visual component you can just reuse anytime you want. And so you'll see the user activity using the same card shows up in timeline, and really it's thinking about this as completing the engagement cycle. What you're doing here is the notification was great, it got you into the app, and it's a great way to get someone's attention to re-engage, but people just want to pick things up and want to kind of think about their now and their previous things as a fluid thing. So then completing the engagement cycle means using timeline and making it very easy for people to get back to what they were doing. So curtain call. Scene's done. I feel like I did a pretty good job. I think you were a convincing developer. I think you have
so?
I mean,
success. You win an Academy Award or something.
Probably. So there's a few places we engaged. We engaged on mobile. We engaged on the browser, and we engaged in Windows. Why? Why are these? Why did we even pick these? Because I mean, this is the truth. This is where people live their lives. They spend a lot of their time on mobile doing snackable things. They spend a lot of the time in the browser doing websites. There's just so many great things out on the web. And then they spend a lot of time in Windows if they have a business or while they're at work or even while they're at home on their downtime using apps. And that's why they can use those built-in Windows features like notifications and timeline and get even better experiences. These are the places that we need to engage people, that you need to engage people as developers, because they expect to engage with you across all of these surfaces. And then you want to try it yourself? Awesome. We'd love for you to try it. Go to any of these websites. If you want to use some of the graph and some of the device relay stuff, go to aka.ms whack Project Rome. Everything's there, great, easy to use SDKs, easy to use documentation about the APIs. Sean showed you adaptivecards.io, so you can go there. And then if you want to get on an insider build so that you can try this stuff out, just go to aka.ms/Windows Insider, and some of this stuff will start rolling in. I hear there's rumors of timeline coming along sometime fairly soon. And
yeah, well, actually, the important thing, those user activity APIs, which apps can use to get into timeline, those are actually available in the fall creators update. So if you have an app today, you can go and start using those APIs, and all kind of the subsystem and the model around those user activities and the stuff that backs timeline is all already in the builds actually in Windows. Most of it in the fall creators update, and then some of it in the insiders builds that folks are getting like even today. And then I think timeline will be hopefully coming real soon now.
Okay. That is awesome. Maybe we could think of it like a holiday present or something.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Ooh, okay. Excellent. So that's all we had for today. I don't see any questions, and we're kind of out of time anyway. So Thank you very much for listening, and we hope you guys have a great rest of the conference.
Thanks.